right, students, today it is just going to be an instructable lesson, and this goes along with one of my other projects, which requires you to have some magic changing paper. So what we're going to need is, of course, our imagination, and we're going to need either oil pastels or crayons. I'm going to do one with both so that you can see what the different effect will look like when we get to the finished product. I'm going to use black paint. This is just tempera paint. I'm going to do a section on each one that is just tempera paint. One section that is the soap and tempera paint mixed together. And then one that I'm just going to use a black oil pastel to cover up the colors underneath. And then we'll experiment with both to see which one you like, or maybe you're limited by your supplies and you have to go with one of the options I'm going to show you today. And you'll need something probably to mix the paint in if you're going to use paint today. Also, I have a variety of little sticks that we can use to make the colors appear. And we're going to have 2 pieces of paper here so that we can do our experimenting on it. All right, here goes our lesson. All right, to get started, I'm gonna use a pencil and I'm going to just sketch out 3 areas here. 1, 2, 3, one to try the different surfaces on it. I'm gonna draw a line across so that you can tell which one is going to be which. So with this one, it's just straight tempera paint that we're gonna put over our lines. This one will be tempera plus soap. And then this one will be just the oil pastel. And I'm actually going to do that with the other one too. But with this first one, all right, to get started, we're going to set up both pieces of paper for our experimenting. I'm going to draw a line that goes across top of each of them. I'm going to draw 2 lines that roughly divide our paper into thirds, 1, 2, 3. And then one is going to have crayon under it, and then the other one's going to have oil pastel. So for our first one, we're going to do just straight tempera paint. The next one will be plus soap. And then the last one will just be oil pastel or just crayon. So you can see how both of those would look. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing down here so we can do our experimenting. And now we're ready to start adding some color. All right, so to get started with this first one, we're going to be using oil pastels. And really, Pentel makes great ones, but any oil pastels will work for this. And they're like crayons, but of course they have a higher concentration of oil. You know, fine masters of yesteryear, like Cezanne, loved to use the oil pastel and chalk pastels. So definitely, if you've never used them before, they are a lot of fun. And if you need to blend colors together, just a little drop or 2 of cooking oil on the tip of your brush, and you can have real fun special effects blending colors together so it looks like a painting when you're done. But for our lesson, we are simply going to be coloring in the whole picture here with different colors. And so I'm going to go ahead and just press super duper hard with our oil pastel with colors anywhere you want. And we just want to fill up the whole page with random colors, especially for this first time. If you're not sure what method you're going to use, just have fun making different colors on here. Maybe sometime in the future you might try to make patterns with it, or maybe try to do some other effects. But first, experiment this first time to see what you like. Be careful overlapping. Sometimes it'll make a great color. Sometimes it'll make a color you're not expecting. So color wheel opposites are blue and orange, and when they mix together, they make kind of a yucky grayish brown. But look at over here with the blue and the yellow, it started to make green. So you can experiment and have fun with those. Try not to leave any of those bumpy little white specks in there, because it will definitely affect your art at the end. So just try to go back and hit them all. All right, so now I'm done with this one, and I'm going to do the same thing with the other paper now, but this time I'm not going to use oil pastels. I'm going to be using just regular crayon, and again, we're going to just do random colors and press hard. Try not to leave a lot of those little white bumps behind. All right, just looking at both of them for comparison, they're both very bright and colorful, but this one with the oil pastels does have a deeper color than the one up here with the regular crayons. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and move on to our next step, which is to covering these with tempera, tempered a little bit of soap, and then covering them with crayon or oil pastel. All right, to get started, I'm gonna put a little bit of paint right in here. I do need something to apply it with. You could use a finger, or if you do have a paintbrush, probably a bigger paintbrush would be better for this. But you can for sure go ahead and just cover this up. And we're gonna do that with both this one and the one on this paper here too. All right, we got our first two sections done. Our next step, I got to put a little bit more paint back in my cup, and then I'm going to add a little bit of soap to it. I would say just a small squeeze will be good enough. And again, we're going to mix those up really good. I'm just using some antibacterial hand soap. And now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cover up this one and that one. All right, so the only thing left to do now is to color over the oil pastel with a black oil pastel for this section, and then we're going to do a black crayon over the crayon for this section. The only thing left to do now is to wait for the black temper paint to dry, and then we're going to try them out. All right, we are ready to have some fun now. And really, it doesn't matter what your picture is that you do, that you're going to do here. The problem is what if you make a mistake? If you make a mistake and you use something like the paint or the oil pastel, you should be able to color over it and still scratch through it to see that color that's underneath it. If you're using color changing paper that's specially made for this, my advice for you is probably just to use like a black permanent marker, and then if you've made a mistake there, you just won't be able to scratch that off. You could try a little paint there too, whether with soap or without, and that may work for you also. And if you don't have a paintbrush, because I'm going to be using the stick end of the paintbrush here to draw some lines, or if you have a shish kebab that your parents have laying around that's a wooden stick, you could use that. But if you don't have that and you just have a pencil, if you break the tip off the pencil, you now have a little wooden stylus stick here that you can draw pictures with. So I will be honest with you, the soap and tempera took longer to dry than the regular straight tempera did. So I'm going to just go in here and I'm going to press like so. And then I'm gonna make me a picture that I happen to like, whatever that picture happens to be. And I'm gonna just do like this. And I'm gonna get some eyebrows on that one. And I'm gonna maybe do like that. Maybe we'll have like that. And we're gonna have some legs that come down like so. And then we have a little turtle shell that's here. So I have a little angry turtle here. It looks like almost like he's dancing. To use the stick on here, you can get much finer detail, I find, and it does a better job, I think, for carving. And you can actually put these in pencil sharpeners too. They work really great for that. And then the bottom of the paint stick, the stick end, I think that works really good too. So my order of preference would be the shish kebab, then the paint stick, and then probably the pencil would be my last favorite choice. So let's go ahead and let's try the oil pastel with tempera and soap over it now. So I'm going to press this, and we're going to go like this. Down in there, and we're going to go around, and then we're going to do like that. Bring us another round here. And wow, the difference is quite striking here. And you know, when I go to art teacher conferences and things, they always talk about doing the soap with it, but it really doesn't release the paint very well, at least as great on the oil pastel as just straight tempera does. So now let's go ahead and take a look over here at just the straight pastel. Let's try the stick. Try the pencil. So I was able to pick up some line with it, but it doesn't look as black as perhaps using just the paint. And I think just using the paint alone really was the best choice for the oil pastel. So now let's go ahead, and although you can get line with just oil pastel and you can get some pretty nice detail, I would probably rate this then as best tempera on oil pastel. Second best is black oil pastel over colored oil pastel. And then last place would be the tempera with soap over oil pastel. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the crayon one. So let's go ahead and do this. And that one again also turned out good. Let's try with just the paintbrush. Pretty good. Let's try the pencil. I think the pencil and the paintbrush are about equal on that one. Let's try the tempera and soap over the crayon now. Some of it was better than others. Not much improvement with the pencil. And the paint stick may be the worst of all for that. All right, so now let's look at crayon over crayon. And I think you can agree that that's probably the worst of all. Really hard to see anything, and doesn't really work at all with the pencil or the end of the paint stick any better either. So here goes our experiments. So if you were making your own and all you have is crayons, I probably wouldn't bother if you're making your own color changing paper. If you've got tempera paint and oil pastels, that works great. If you've got crayons and black tempera paint, I think we got a winner with this one, with the oil pastels. The crayon was a close second with just the paint over it. And then I think that both the tempera soap on the crayon and the oil pastel are about the same. And if you don't have any paint, you could certainly try the oil pastel. That one might be the third choice of these. Maybe tied with the tempera soap on the oil pastel paper. And then again, if you would rather just buy your own, you can usually find these at a lot of stores. All right, there's one combination we haven't done, and that is oil pastel directly over crayon. So we need to see what that's going to look like now. Definitely up there with the tempera over the oil pastel. I think that one's still the winner, but this one is definitely a close second. I'm sure whatever you make is going to be a masterpiece because you are amazing. Remember, always be kind to everyone you meet. Do something nice for someone in your house today. They probably really need it. And keep on making great art.